Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders holding a rally in Ohio tomorrow. The independent lawmaker is seeking to bolster support for an upcoming ballot initiative to raise the state's minimum wage to $15 an hour. The current minimum wage in the Buckeye State for non-tipped employees is $10.45 an hour. For tipped workers, it's $5.25 an hour. All of this, these economic issues, they really are at the heart of the Biden-Trump race for the White House. And Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont joins us now from Capitol Hill. Senator Sanders, we always appreciate your time and you stopping by for a conversation. You're headed to Ohio to campaign about the minimum wage, about hiking it in that state. You've been all around the country on this issue. Do you believe it's breaking through, though, with working voters, that people like yourself, Democrats in Washington, those who are aligned with your values, are really working for working people and they're going to vote Democratic this fall?
Well, two things. First of all, the need to raise the minimum wage to a living wage is something that's catching on all over the country. To the best of my knowledge, every single state ballot item, and there have been over 10 that have called for raising the minimum wage, have won. I hope it wins in Ohio as well. Second, to answer your second question, look, I think what we are seeing in America today, and most workers understand it, is an economy in which the people on top, the wealthiest people, are doing phenomenally well. Never done better. We have more income and wealth inequality today in America than we've ever had, while at the same time 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. And you got some 600,000 people sleeping out on the street. People can't afford housing. Healthcare system is broken, etc. So I think for policy reasons, for the right reasons, and for political reasons, what Democrats have got to say is we all got prepared to take on the greed of the pharmaceutical industry, of the oil companies, of the insurance companies. We're not going to give tax breaks to billionaires. Our job is to represent working families, not the very wealthy.
Senator Sanders, when you're in Ohio, you will be appearing at a United Auto Workers site. President Biden's been to many UAW places around the country, just as you have yourself. Shawn Fain, the head of the UAW, has been a firm supporter of the Biden administration. Are you confident, though, Senator, that UAW workers and labor members nationwide are mobilized for the Biden ticket as this election heats up?
Well, first of all, the UAW under Shawn Fain has been doing an extraordinary job. And they are tapping that nerve of ordinary Americans and saying, you know what, it's time for the working class of this country to get a break and not just see outrageous compensation packages for the CEOs or tax breaks for the very rich. So the UAW is doing a great job. But I think what we need to do is to expand the trade union movement, and we're working with Shawn to do that, make it easier for workers to join unions. But I think at the end of the day, if the question is, do working people understand that under Biden, for the first time in American history, you had a president who actually walked a picket line with striking workers, as opposed to Donald Trump, whose main accomplishment in life was giving massive tax breaks to the very rich, while he appointed extraordinarily reactionary, anti-union people to important positions in his administration. I think the choice is clear to workers.
Senator, what would you say to a labor union member, maybe in Ohio later today, and they say, I'm a traditional Democrat, or I've long voted for Democrats, but I like former President Trump's position on immigration and the border? Because that does seem to be a bit of appeal, as I'm on the campaign trail myself as a reporter. The immigration position seems to be drawing some of those workers along toward Trump. What would you say to that type of voter?
Well, what I would say is we have an immigration issue. We've got to deal with it. The Biden administration is attempting to deal with it. But at the end of the day, if you want to have an economy in which we have health care for all, when we're moving toward health care to all, when we take on the greed of the pharmaceutical industry, where your kids can get student debt relief, where we're addressing the crisis of climate change and creating good paying jobs as we do that. I'll give you just one example. In Ohio, Lordstown, Ohio. This was a plant that years ago workers there earned good wages. Plant was shut down. It was reopened. Wages were terrible. With President Biden's support and the good work of the UAW, that plant in Lordstown, they just finished a contract negotiation. Workers there are back to earning very, very good wages. So I would say to working people, look, you'll have differences with Biden on this or that issue. I have strong differences with the president on this or that issue. But at the end of the day, if you want to move working families forward, I think the choice is clear, and Biden is by far the preferable candidate.
You're also traveling to New York later this week, Senator Sanders. And when you're in Ohio, everywhere you go, I've always seen young people crowd around you. A lot of young Democrats, young voters nationwide have concerns about the ongoing war in Israel, concerns about what's going on with Gaza and the Palestinians there, the casualties that have been suffered. Is this an issue that remains a cloud over this entire country in this campaign, especially as young people and Democrats look at how they're going to vote later this year?
Bob, I think it does. I mean, I mentioned that I have disagreements with the Biden administration on this or that issue, and I have a big disagreement with them over what's going on in Israel. I think we all understand that Israel had the absolute right to defend itself against the horrific Hamas terrorist attack on October 7th. But what's going on now under the right-wing extremist Netanyahu government is a war not against Hamas, but the entire Palestinian people. I mean, the destruction there is unbelievable. 38,000 people dead, over 85,000 wounded, 60% are women, children, the elderly. Their civilian infrastructure, water systems, wastewater destroyed, education system destroyed, healthcare system destroyed. And right now, we are looking at a situation where tens of thousands of people face starvation. Thousands of kids there have already been diagnosed with malnutrition because Israel is blocking humanitarian aid. So I have strong disagreements with the president over this issue, and I think a lot of people in America do as well. So people support Israel's right to defend itself, but not to destroy the Palestinian people in Gaza.
Senator, I know you don't love talking politics, but politics does affect policy. If the administration doesn't change its position or adjust its position on Israel and Palestine in the coming few months, what could be the political cost? Do you believe some voters who might be inclined toward President Biden might just stay home even if they don't vote for former President Trump? How do you see it?
Yeah, I think that that's a real possibility, Bob. I mean, I think a lot of, people in the progressive community, young people, people of color, just Democrats in general, they're not going to vote for Donald Trump. They know what a reactionary he is, and they know how he's trying to divide our country and undermine American democracy. But at the same time, I think there are young people who are going to say, you know what, I just can't pull that lever for Biden. And our job is, A, to move Biden on this issue, to get changes in policy, to demand that before we give Netanyahu any more money, he undertakes a transformation of his policies toward the Palestinian people, West Bank, two-state solution, etc. But second of all, what we have to do is explain to young people that, look, you're concerned about climate change. Donald Trump thinks climate change is a hoax. Biden has put more money into transforming our energy system than any president in history. The choice is clear. You're concerned about women's rights. Biden has been very strong on the right of women to control their own body. Trump is proud that he appointed all these Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe v. Wade. You're a workup. Biden was on the picket line. Trump appoints anti-union officials. So I think, notwithstanding the terrible war in Gaza, and I have very strong feelings. I've been, one of the leaders in the Senate in opposition to what the president is doing. Notwithstanding that, I think the choice is clear for the future of this country that Biden is far, far preferable to Trump.